Hey, this is natural horseman Sonny Garguilo. I'm here with America's most trusted horseman and probably my inspiration for being a horseman today, Mr. John Lyons. John, thank you for giving me the time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited about it. It's great to be here. I love the East Coast, and I love horse people no matter where they are.
Right, John. We were chatting before the interview. About stories about Josh and Tommy and guys like. You ever hang out with those guys? Do you ever kind of go out with them and get yourself into trouble with them?
Well, I tried to stay out of trouble. I've tried to learn not to do some of the things. They're still kind of figuring life out a little bit, and certain things aren't much fun the next day. So no, I don't do that. But Josh and I, what we do that we really look forward to is several times during the year, either I'll go to his place or he'll come to mine in Colorado, and we just ride together, and we can help each other and share ideas. And so Josh is better at certain things with horses than I am, and it's really not about who's better or worse. It's really just having somebody else's eyes on you and saying, hey, Dad, if you did this a little bit different, maybe you'd see a difference or an improvement in what you're trying to accomplish with the horse. And I can do the same thing for Josh, where Josh is such a truly amazing and gifted rider, because he's worked really, really hard at it. And so people really back off, really world-class trainers back off from helping him, because they think, I don't know what else, I can do for him.
Right.
And where me being his dad, number one, and two, my eye just kind of gravitates towards, change, and improvement. I don't necessarily see sometimes where the person is. What I see is, okay, if you do this differently, you'll see a change in the horse.
Right. John, sometimes I kind of look at people and I watch them ride and I watch them work with their horses. And one of the things I always say is, I see a problem is that most of the time, or a lot of the time for me, and you would know better than I, but people don't ask. Well, the horse is doing this. Well, he's not doing this. Well, you're not asking. You're kind of being too passive of a rider. Do you ever feel that way?
Oh, well, for sure. What happens is horses seek our level of expectations. People think if they ride their horse, the horse will improve. Well, that's not true. You can ride the horse years and really not have any improvement in the horse. So first, I need to, if I want to improve my horse, I have to raise my expectations. In order to raise my expectations, I have to say, this is possible, that I saw a horse stop better, so therefore my horse can stop better. So the very first thing we have to do as a rider is raise the level of our expectations. The horse is such a neat animal. What he's going to do is he's satisfied wherever we're satisfied. And so exactly like you say, is that if we don't ask, he's not going to do it.
Right.
And if we ask him correctly, the horse is polite enough, even though he knows how to do something. For an example, you can watch a baby in a field that's a week old, and you can see that baby do lead changes. All right, so he knows how to do lead changes. He knows how to do rollbacks. If he goes up and slides, he's playing with his mom.
Right.
And he can even do canter pirouettes if you watch him. You'll see a step or two of a canter pirouette. So we can't say he doesn't know how to do it. But the horse is such a polite animal, truly, that if he will wait 20 years or longer, he'll wait his whole life to do lead changes correctly until I learn how to ask correctly.
Okay.
And so when within 5 minutes from the time that I learn how to ask, he'll do the lead changes. So he's just waiting on me to learn how to ask correctly. He will let me pull in the wrong direction, he'll let me kick, he'll let me try to shape his body in the wrong direction, and he will do that for years and never ever jerk the reins out of my hand, say, "You stupid idiot, this is how you do a lead change. I've been doing it since I was 4 or 5 days old." So from that, I learn, as a person, that the problem is not, the horse, that I'm riding. The problem is me. So I have to ask myself, if I want the horse to change in his behavior, in his performance, the question I ask is, what change do I need to make in me to see a reflection of that change in the horse? So I recognize the horse is just a mirror image of me.
Okay.
Like people around us. What we want to do is we point the finger at the horse. We say it's his attitude. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's throwing his head. Well, he's just going to do what I ask him to do. Until I learn how to ask him not to throw his head, that's what he'll do.
Right.
So we point the finger at the horse. It's his attention, his attitude. It's how he's doing this, he's doing that. The same thing we do to people. With people, we point out the fault in the other person, our kids, etc. And we say, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. When really, if I really want that person to change in front of me, whether it's my child or my wife or anybody, again, the question comes back, John, what change do I need to make in me to see a reflection of that change in my child? And I just get a reflection. I don't get the whole change.
Right.
I get a reflection of the amount of change that I make in me. So when the horse isn't doing what I want, I know that what I'm doing isn't working. That's something. At least I know where not to do anymore. And so maybe I'm picking up the rein real slow. Maybe I need to pick it up faster. Maybe I'm picking up the rein fast. So maybe I need to slow down. I may not know the right answer, but change something. And really, God made the horse so neat and so changeable and so flexible that what I can do is I can make any change I want with the horse without the fear that I'm going to mess up my horse forever. No one is good enough to mess up their horse forever. He's always so changeable and so fixable. Sometimes what slows people down is they're afraid to do something, different, because they're afraid they're going to ruin their horse. Right. God already took care of that. He said, "Don't worry, John. Just try. Right. Just try something.
Right. Do something.
Oh, it's cool." And so I get to try something. I don't know what works right now, but try something without the fear that I'm ever going to ruin my horse.
Right. So, one of the things that I say, John, always is that, you spoke about you can't mess up the horse. I think that when people, when I bring horses up a training board, or I do a clinic and people do better, coming out of that clinic, I think it's not that the horse he's not making this miraculous change overnight. I think that when someone comes to a John Lyons clinic, or hopefully a Sonny Garguilo clinic, I think what happens is the rider becomes more proactive. Now it's almost like a wake-up call. Hey, this can happen. And they become more proactive. So they're working with their horse more. They're not just sitting around and just trail riding this horse. One of the things I said to someone the other day was, as a trainer, I can never just ride my horse. I enjoy my horse, I ride her, but I'm constantly, if I see something not right on trail, wherever I might be, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to try to work on that. Is it too much to ask of a horse? Do you ever just let a horse just go? Or as a trainer, even when you're on, if you're asking that horse to move over and he's not moving over 100%, do you ask for more? Do you find yourself training all the time, or do you ever just relax?
Well, I'm always relaxing because it's supposed to be fun.
Right.
But I'm always training. Just like you, what you learn is the horse is a learning machine. He is an absolute learning machine.
Age doesn't matter.
Age does not make any difference at all.
3-year-old, 20-year-old, they're going to learn.
And so that's what happens, like for an example, what you're talking about, even when you're on the trail. The trail is like a giant vacuum cleaner. That's what it is. It just sucks the training right out of the horse. And the reason is because, it's easy to get on the horse. The other horses start down the trail. Your horse starts going down the trail. The trail turns to the right. Your horse turns to the right. The other horses stop. Your horse stops. The other horses start to trot. Your horse starts to trot. So we could be on the horse for 3 or 4 hours, and never really tell the horse, turn here, turn there, go up here and turn to the right, or stop, or start.
Right.
So what happens after 3 or 4 hours, all of a sudden we start back toward the barn, the horse starts going a little bit faster, we say slow down, he turns around and says, hey, just shut up, you've been sitting there for 4 hours, I've been in control,
Right. You haven't said a word
I'll
in 4
tell you
hours.
what we're going to do. So for 4 hours we've been training this horse. And how we've been training this horse is you make the decisions when to speed up, when to slow down, when to turn right, when to turn left. So on that trail ride, and that's the easiest place to do that, is actually lose our training. And that's why you see many times in your business, for sure, when you're helping, you're out trail riding or you're helping people ride, the horse is maybe 15 years old and he's more out of control than a 2-year-old horse that you're just starting. It's because progressively over time, the horse has been taught, it isn't what the horse did, but the horse has been taught it can have more and more control.
Right.
So a trail ride can be the very easiest thing a horse can do. For an example, you can take an unbroke horse and go out on a trail ride the first day with it. And I've done that lots of times and with lots of people. And so it can be very easy because the other horses go and this unbroke horse just kind of stays with it, goes right along with the program. But it can also be one of the most difficult things to do to keep a really nice trail horse a nice trail horse. We need to control every single step on that trail ride. Well, what you have learned is that controlling that step is important. You translate it as training, but really you recognize where loss of control starts. And it starts with a step or two here, it starts with the head coming up, or it starts with the horse being out of a body position that you're trying to tell it, this is how I want you to be. You recognize when you pick up on the reins, because you set the standard, let's say at 1 pound of pressure on the reins. And so you pick up that rein and you don't feel that horse slow down on 1 pound of pressure. You're thinking, wait a minute, this horse is running away with me right now.
Right.
And so you start correcting that. You don't wait till you get back to the barn, and you don't wait till you get back to so-called a quote-unquote training situation. You recognize right there, at that moment, on that spot on the trail, I need to fix this right now.
Okay. John, outside of horses, what does John Lyons like to do? What is John Lyons? What kind of fun does John Lyons have?
I really love to dance with my wife.
Really? Ballroom dancing?
No, just, I ain't that good of a dancer.
You got the new knees.
No, I just like holding her close and slow dancing with her around the dance floor, and playing with her. And so I really love Jody a ton. So I just like being with her,
spending time
having
with
coffee in the morning and doing some of those things.
Right.
And I like playing on equipment. My hobby is heavy equipment. So I have track hoes and bulldozers.
Okay.
Or a track hoe, a bulldozer. And
So John Lyons isn't playing golf or
no, I don't play golf. Josh loves golf, but
basketball,
to me,
golf.
I can't, I get more of a thrill by taking a project like, a yard, building something,
Right.
and at the end of the day, seeing something that I did. Where golf, I get too antsy. I think, oh, here's a whole day, or most of a day
Waste of
that I
time.
use to do that, and then I don't get the same satisfaction out of it that
Right.
other people get. And that's why that's a great thing that God did. He didn't make everybody the same. He's not, we're not all cookie cutters. Everybody likes to do lots of different things. So I like pushing dirt and building things. And
So
and
you were
trying to see an improvement somewhere.
you were a kid who had Tonka toys when you were a kid, the big trucks.
Right. Exactly. I'm still a kid.
All right.
You know, I still get to play with Tonka toys.
Big
you know,
ones, man.
this
Big
one.
expensive ones.
Oh my goodness.
So let me ask you another question. Today I use the term natural horsemanship, and I just latched onto it. But really, I call myself a practical horseman. For me, I understand there's nothing we do natural with the horse. We put a saddle on their back, put a bit in their mouth, and feed them grain and all that stuff. But for me, the natural part, and I always have to explain this, is being able to communicate with the horse the way the horse would understand. Asking the horse in a very clear way so the horse doesn't get frustrated. I use the example of if you spoke a different language and I'm trying to ask you to go over here and pick something up and you speak German and I speak English, you would get very frustrated after a while with me because you didn't understand me, and I would get very frustrated with you because you're not doing what I ask. So, for me, it's making the cues very clear to the horse, exactly what I want the horse to do, and taking the time to have the horse do that. Today that word kind of gets thrown around a lot, and it's become a bad word, I think, at some point because it's become almost like a commercialized word. But who inspired John Lyons?
Who inspired John Lyons?
Was your dad a horseman?
Well, I think I couldn't tie that down to one person. When I first got into horses, I actually was 24 when I got into horses, and how I got into them is that I ended up buying 5 acres of ground, and I have honestly no clue where this thought came from, but I thought anybody that owned that much land ought to have a horse. And so I bought my first horse, and I don't know why.
What was his name?
His name was Ike.
Okay.
I paid $350 for him. He was a
horse?
great gelding. I got, with the $350, I got the saddle, I got the tack box, I got the bridle, I got everything, for that. And so now that horse has cost me about $2 or $3 million since.
Okay.
But it's been pretty cool. And so that's what I started with. And then I was going to work one day, and I see this fella riding this gaited horse. And I didn't even know it was a gaited horse. I just thought this was cool. He was just going down the road, alongside the road, and it was so neat watching him sit up on that horse, and he was just floating down that road. And so I pulled over real quick. I ran across the highway, and I said to him, what kind of horse is that? And he said, well, it's a Tennessee Walker. And I said, how much would a horse like that cost? And he said, $500. And I said, I'll take it. And I said, I want to buy it. He said, no. He said, no, you can't buy it. He said, you have to come up, follow me up to my house, and if you can climb on this horse and show me you can ride it, then I will sell it to you. So I did, and this fellow, his name was Tom McNeal. And just average guy, backyard horse guy,
right.
He had horses all his life, and at that time, and this is 30 years ago, he was 60, somewhere in there, and he showed me another horse that he had, a black grade quarter mare. And at that moment in my life, I was just impressed by him because he could act like he could talk to this horse, and this horse would do this stuff, and it really, I look back at it, really wasn't that much. Right. It was on a lunge line, walk, trot, and canter,
right.
And reverse directions. That's all he did. But I thought, wow, you could actually just talk to these things. And so that's really probably the moment that inspired me. And then I started showing horses several years later. When I had the ranch in Colorado, started showing horses, and I'm working this horse and I'm getting him ready to go to a show. And I'm out in the pasture because I didn't have an arena. I'm out in the hay meadows and I'm working this horse, and I'm doing what people are telling me is okay to do. Get this horse to stop, get this horse to do these things. But I love this horse, and I love horses. And I didn't feel at all good about what I was doing. I felt like I was really picking on this horse way too much. I didn't feel like it was right. I had all these, special bits and quick stops and donals and all this kind of junk on the horse. And I thought, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And I sat there for a minute in that pasture, in that hay meadow, and I thought, I'm going to have to answer to God someday what I'm doing to this horse. And I knew that he would forgive me for what I didn't know. But I felt like he would say, but John, this day, you felt like this was wrong to do. Why did you do it anyway?
Right.
To this animal or to this horse. And so that's the day that I really stopped listening to other people as far as what was okay and not okay to do to the horse.
Okay.
At that point, I had to make my own decisions, on what was okay to do to an animal and what wasn't. And I think that's probably made the biggest turning point in my life as far as horses. And I learn from all kinds of people, but I always keep that rule solid. If I wouldn't do it to a child, a kindergartner, then I can't do it to a horse.
Yeah, one of the things I'll always say, John, is if it doesn't look right, it probably isn't,
Exactly.
I mean, it's pretty much common sense. I had a gal one time, I was watching her, she was with an old school, I don't like to say a cowboy, one of these cowboy trainers, these old school cowboy ways, because I met a lot of cowboys that are gentle with their horses, and not every cowboy beats up his horse, and that's a misconception. But this guy was one of them, and he tied up this horse to the horn, by the rein, and bent that neck around and flexed him around, and he kept him tied there for about a half hour. Then he come in the ring, in the round pen, he started, with the lunge whip, started whipping that horse in the hindquarters. And, just sending that horse around and sending that horse around. And, the owner's standing on the round pen, and I walk over and I say, what are you doing? And she said, and she's crying. And she goes, I don't know, it just upsets me. It doesn't look, it doesn't look good. I said, well, doesn't that tell you something? If it doesn't look good, it probably isn't. And, I always say that, if it doesn't look good and you use your common sense, you pretty much, if you follow your common sense and it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right.
Exactly right. And I I agree with you 100%.
Wait, did you hear that? John Lyons agreed with me.
Always.
That's great, John.
And so that I try to teach people that they know more about horses than they think they do. Even though they might have owned a horse for an hour.
Right.
If they'll believe in themselves and know that God put something inside of them to tell them whether it's okay or not okay to do something, and whether it's safe to do something or not safe to do something. So I try to teach them to ask themselves that, if I do this with my horse, what this person is telling me to do, and things don't turn out like this person says they're going to turn out, can I get hurt or can my horse get hurt? And if the answer comes back maybe, don't do it.
Don't do it.
If I try to teach people that when it's their horse, that they're still responsible for it, even though they give it to that trainer, and even though the trainer, if they're right there at the moment, or if they live 10 miles away, they're still responsible for that horse. It never belongs to the trainer. The person always has the right to walk up to the trainer and say, I don't feel comfortable with you doing that. And the trainer should immediately say, no problem,
Right.
and this is why I'm doing it. And the trainer, should do the very best to explain why they're doing it. But if the owner doesn't want them doing it, then the owner owns the horse, 100%.
John, I was just talking about this exact thing yesterday to a person up here. We're up at the Equine Fair, and she said to me, Sonny, I'm going to send my horse up to a guy, and he's going to be up there for 3 months, and he said to me, "You can't come up for the first month."
Oh, don't ever! I would never give my horse
I mean,
to
does that
somebody to
sound-
say that. That's a.
I told him
that's
that's a red flag. Yeah,
right?
that's you know, he's going to be beating on your horse.
right.
So
Don't ever do that. Don't ever turn your. You know, if that person won't let you watch while they're working with your horse, don't give them the horse. Something's going on that shouldn't be going on.
Right.
If we're embarrassed to do something in front of people, we shouldn't be doing it anyway. You know, with the horse, etc. So that is very, very important. You know, and if we're doing something, you know, to our horse, and we don't feel very good about it, we shouldn't be doing it.
stop doing it.
Stop doing it right
Change the
now.
plan. So 30 years of training, John. Biggest name, as far as I'm concerned, in horsemanship in the country, in the world, probably right now for me. Have you ever come across a horse? You know, I always say there's no bad horse, just bad training. Have you ever come across a horse that you just said, man, you know, this guy's too far gone. Somebody has just, you know, really ruined this horse. And
Not that somebody is ruined. You come across. I've come across one horse that had a mental problem. He would actually bite himself. He'd squeal. He'd go along fine. You could ride him, and then all of a sudden, you know, you could ride him in a walk on a loose rein.
right,
Just ride him around, not doing anything, and all of a sudden, he wouldn't try to buck. He would try to come back and eat you off of the saddle. I mean, he was that serious. But he'd bite himself.
right,
Whether there was something mentally wrong with the horse, but it was just so far outside normal behavior or
Right.
behavioral problems with horses. The other horse that sometimes it's just good to give up on is a horse that is an orphan foal, and so people feed it. They feed it by hand and or you know with the bottle. They do all that, but they keep the horse close to them. And what happens to that horse's mind? And if they keep that horse separated from other horses, is that horse begins to treat people like it would a horse. So that horse, if an orphan foal becomes aggressive, all right. There's lots of orphan foals that have grown up, people have bottle fed, and they've grown up just fine, and there's no problems with them.
Right.
So I'm not talking about that orphan foal, but the orphan foal that turns aggressive, dangerously aggressive. That horse, it's really hard or almost impossible, I think, to turn that horse around. And the reason is because horses see people, in other words, they see a person as representing all people, right? So you train the horse, somebody else can take your horse, climb on it, ride it, no problem at all. Because your horse doesn't see you like a dog owner. You know, there's an old cowboy saying that when you think you're pretty important, call somebody else's dog. You know, that dog ain't coming.
Right,
you know,
right,
he'll say you're really not that important. A horse is not that way. A horse is not a dog. If you call my horse, he'll come to you just like he comes to me. If you're in between me and him, he'll go to you. You know, if you're closer to him. So horses don't treat people like dogs treat people. So to a horse, we represent all mankind. Well, on an orphan foal that turns aggressive, the way he sees people, he's on the same level. You know, it'd be like a horse herd. All right, and so what happens, even though, let's say you take that orphan foal, you know, now let's say a 2 or 3 year old horse, and even if you could turn that horse around and end up being kind of dominant in the horse's mind over the horse, where he actually listens to you and does what you want, somebody else comes up and he might attack him because he treats people like a horse treats horses in a horse herd. In other words, in a horse herd, you have a horse that's higher in the pecking order and a horse that's lower in the pecking order.
So he might respect
the
me,
same horse, yeah.
but the next person.
This horse will run from one horse, but he will chase another horse. So even if one horse is dominant, in his mind, he doesn't think all horses are dominant.
Okay.
So an orphan foal, what they'll do, even though you're dominant, they'll turn around and viciously attack somebody else. So you really can't fix that.
Right.
Unless you segregate the horse and you say, okay, I'm never going to have this horse around another person, and I'm going to be the only person. And eventually, because pecking order changes in a herd, that horse will still come back and attack you.
Okay. John, one more thing I want to ask. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You got a bunch of people here. At the end of the day, when John Lyons closes his eyes and he meets the good Lord, and the Lord says, "John, I gave you this gift to work with horses," and how does John Lyons want to be remembered as a horseman? At the end of the day.
Oh, I don't want to be remembered as a horseman. I want to be remembered as, as a person who helped other people, and helped them not only maybe with their horses, because that's not so critical for their lives. I would like to help them to help them with their overall life and with their relationship with their Father in heaven. That's far more important. If I could help somebody with their relationship with their Father in heaven, then and understand who their Father is and how we all fit together as one family. If I could do that, then that's lasting. Horses, it's great to be able to help people with horses and help their horse life. I for sure want to do that. But I would like to, in a broader sense, be able to help people with their families, with their kids, and with their relationship with their Father in heaven.
John, one last thing. So, if you had to describe the horse, someone lands from another planet, and they meet you and they grab you and they say, "I seen you riding something there." How would you describe the horse if someone had never seen a horse? What would you say?
I would say this animal is so adaptable and so changeable and wants to please so much, and he's an example of how I would want to be with somebody else. I would want to turn over my life and give somebody else my life.
That's fantastic. Once again, we're here with America's most trusted horseman, Mr. John Lyons. I'm definitely going to catch up with your son down there in Tennessee. He invited me down there. I'm going to go down and hang out with him, try to stay out of trouble. John, thank you so much for giving me this time. I appreciate it. And for me, it's an honor to sit with the guy who inspired me from the beginning. So,
Sonny, you're so welcome.
Thank you, John.
You are so very welcome.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It's been a great time.
Thank you, sir.